Welcome back, you wonderful human being. Here I am again. It's episode 42. I've got another amazing guest lined up for you today. It was such a good conversation that I have split it into two parts. I'm not going to say any more. I just want to roll the intro and you can enjoy the episode, and I'll catch you in part 2 next week. G'day and welcome to the Pursuit of Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Rosie Burrows, and I'm on a journey to find my freedom so that I can help you do exactly the same. Join me each week as I share the stories of everyday people who have found their own paths to freedom. I'm not going to focus on job titles and accolades because I don't care about that stuff, and neither should you. I want to uncover what truly makes you tick. Who are you when you step away from society's expectations and follow your heart? I still haven't figured it out yet. Have you? Either way, buckle up because it's going to be one hell of a ride. Welcome back to another episode of the pod. I'm recording in my van today. I'm actually parked up, unfortunately, next to a fairly busy road. So if there's any background noise, I apologise. I will try my best to edit it out, but here's to embracing imperfection. And joining us today is Katie Portanova. I sometimes do a little introductory thing at the beginning, but you know what? I don't feel like it today because I want Katie to do more of the talking. Katie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Having me, Rosie. Yeah. I'm really excited.
Me too. Yeah, this is going to be great. And where I want to start is you're someone who's always gone against the norm. Correct me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to take us back. Like, where did this start? I'm assuming, this is a pretty big assumption, but I'm assuming it was there when you were younger. So can you just talk us through what was life like and where did this rebellious Katie come from?
Rebellion. I don't know if I ever was called that. I was more called somebody that was like out of like different. So when I was a child, I am one of four kids in my family, and I'm the only child with blonde hair and blue eyes. So I was always the odd person out. You know, probably some could relate, like, you know, your siblings saying, you're not really part of this family. Like, you know, you're like, you're not, you don't look like anybody, but luckily my dad has blue eyes. So I know I'm part of the family. But yeah, I mean, I think I always tried to do something when I was little. I was always out of the box, like trying to do different things. I would annoy my parents a lot because I would try to do things in different ways than my siblings would. And I don't have a specific examples, but like I just remember always being like, kind of like, you know, slapped and saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? Like, calm down." Or, you know, I had a lot of energy as a child, and I always wanted to get out and do other things and like try other things. I think kind of where that started, and then I always just wanted to be and do and see and just experience other things than where I'm from.
I resonate with that so much.
You have birds as well outside with you?
Yeah, can you hear them? Lots of background noise today.
A toucan or something outside here. Because I don't know if the audience can hear it, but it was like really loud.
They're just saying hello.
Hello, I'm going to be on the podcast. Yeah, so I think I answered your question. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's funny how these things often start early in life. Was this something, I don't know how to phrase it, but was this something you were supported in? You know, this kind of being a bit different? No. Or did it always feel like something that had you on the outside?
Was always kind of the quote-unquote outcast. I was kind of the black sheep of the family, of my friends. Like, I would say things that weren't cool, you know, when we were younger. Like... You know, I remember specifically, like, saying, I never knew what the word bogus meant. I thought it meant something cool. And I remember in 5th grade, like, saying how bogus everything was. And they're like, yeah, that's not what it means. And I'm like, oh. So I always felt like I had a different way of expressing myself. And then I always had, I had a different way of, like, just being. And I don't think I was very much supported in that. In a lot of my friendships and my family, because I was kind of I come from a family where, well, I love my family, but I come from a family where we kind of don't want to be, in the spotlight. Like we don't want to be, we don't want people to know that Katie's doing that or something, or try to fit in, Katie. Like, try not to stand out because that's where you get into trouble, kind of thing. So, and I did a lot of standing out and did a lot of things that, yes, I did get, bullied and made fun of and all the horrible grades of middle school. But I honestly, like in the end, there were towards high school and then into college, like I think I came into my own because I had this idea in my mind, like this is not where high school isn't going to last forever, and college isn't going to last forever. But college I was able to like open myself up to the world, and so that's where I ended up studying abroad in Florence, and that was the only time. Yeah. That was the first time in my life where I'm like, this feels good. This is my groove. This is my jam. When you listen to like really good music and you're like, I can't get up from listening to this music. Like that's how I felt. Like, yeah, you just know you're in the right place and the right time. And even if after I studied abroad and I came back and I did my senior year, I told all my teammates on my soccer team at St. Mary's and in Minnesota, and I said, I'm going to live in Florence. And they're like, okay, whatever. Like brushing me off. I'm like, okay, that's a challenge. Like I took that as a challenge. Right. I'm like, all right, fine. You guys think I'm lying? You think I just watch me do what I want to do. There were hard times in my childhood, and then there were like times where I felt resilient. I feel like that's where I felt when I moved abroad and everything like that. I had that feeling of like, I can do this. I don't need approval. I don't need permission. Yeah. I don't need people to support me. Like I can be my own like cheerleader, be my own, like be there for myself and and listen to the intuition that's within. Like, because I think that was what initially would deter me from certain things, I'm sure and now that you just said you live in a van, sorry to sidetrack, but like I had no idea you lived in a van. That is out of the norm of living, and like I wonder if you feel like that. I think that feeling of like going out and doing something completely. There's not like people that just say, "Hey, we're the van community." Like you did it on your own. So like I'm sure you feel similar feelings as I do, right? With what you've done.
Yeah, and it took me a while. Like I've only been in the van a few months living full time, but it's been a dream for probably a decade. Oh. And I think the biggest thing that's held me back is getting caught up with, what are people going to think? I can't do that. That's not the way it's done. Oh, as soon as I got in my head, I took myself out of it. But one day I just said, fuck this. Like I lost both my parents young, and all of a sudden I just went, why am I hedging? Like I should know that life is unpredictable. Let's just do the thing. It's taken me a while. It's taken me 4 years to convert this van. I bought it thinking it's going to take me 6 months. So that didn't go to plan.
Wow.
But I'm here, and I think I've really found my sense of belonging. Like it just feels like home, more so than any other house I've lived in, right? Which is the typical way of living. So yeah, I really resonate.
And I think that's like, once you feel that sense, not that sense of belonging is something that's we all yearn for, as quoting Brene Brown. I don't have her quote, but we need to belong somewhere. We want to feel like we not necessarily fit in, because fitting in is not the same as belonging.
Right.
That's like when I just came back from spending Christmas with my family and friends, and my husband's family and our friends in Florence, and like I always feel like I belong. Like I always feel like, even though like the first night, like we got off our jet lag, like our really good friends were just like, okay, we're meeting for dinner at 9:15, and I'm like, it's so late, because I went to bed really early where I'm at in Chicago. So but I'm like, but afterwards, like, I kept feeling, I'm like, this is where I still feel that sense of like, even though I probably won't move and live in Florence because the city isn't for me anymore, but like being in Italy and being in Tuscany is like where I want to be. So like, I feel that sense of belonging without approval, without feeling that I need to get permission from somebody else, or, feeling bad that like my friends that I have here aren't going to be there. Like, it's not about them, so there's a lot of like, there's a lot of work I've been doing within myself this past year. And I was like thinking about my word of the year, because I always try to think of like a word. And usually for the last, before COVID, like my word was always persevere. It was always persevere throughout the year. Last year, my word was trust. And this year is steadiness. Like, pace myself, take breaks, and not push myself into burnout or oblivion of like, do, and make money. But like, that's not, as much as like we all need to make an income, but like, there's so many things that get wrapped up, especially when you're a small business owner, of like trying to, what is my purpose? Am I doing it for, am I in this frame of thinking because I'm worried about money? Am I in this frame of thinking because I'm worried about getting more people to follow me or getting more people on my retreat? If I'm worried about any of those two things, like, I've decided, I'm like, I'm not pursuing it. I'm not pursuing that path, or I'm not giving it more energy than it needs. Because I decided also, and I don't know how you are with social media, but like, I have not gained one customer or client from social media in the last 5 years. Okay. That I've been working on my retreats and stuff. So I'm like, I don't really, I'll have the presence there because my business coach is like, you should have a presence, whatever. And I'm like, whatever. I'll have a presence. I'll put a post a week. I don't really care. But I don't think that exudes the passion and the purpose and the mission and the vision that I have. Because you can read all day long, and you can scroll and like, it's not the same thing as like as a podcast. Like, so I'm going to dedicate my time more to my podcast. And what else was I going to do? Something else. Obviously, it's just the third, right? Okay, good. Like, it's just the third. I still have time to think about all the things that I want to accomplish.
I love your word of the year, steadiness. I think that just, maybe that should be my word too. I can very easily get caught up in, or be a cog in the machine, and I should be doing these things and blah, blah, blah. But when you just take a breath and go, okay, what do I want? And what's the reason behind that? I might be, let's use social media. I might be doing all these posts, spending all this time. And if I just go, actually, why am I doing that? Well, it's because everybody tells me I should, not because it brings me joy. So you know what? I'm going to take a step back.
No, exactly. And I think that I would come home from my full-time job all year last year and just like work on my website. And I'm like wondering to myself, like, what do I need to do more to my website? But I would just like tweak it or like change like pictures or like work on my email campaigns and my email lists and like do all these things. And I'm like, I don't like doing that. Like, I like to think back to myself now, and I'm like, why did it's for me to think that I was doing something for my business. And in the end, it wasn't like doing anything, but just me wasting time and saying, I'm working on my business. And now it's like, my focus is going forward and going with the word steadiness is like, okay, I took a lot of videos. I got this new camera before I left, and I took a lot of videos in Florence and Tuscany and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, I'm going to create these short videos, and if they're going to be, I don't know what they're going to be. I'm not going to put a lot of energy into trying to create like amazing footage and all, whatever. I'm like, I'm not a video editor. I'm never going to be a video editor. I'm never going to be like a perfect public speaker on my podcast. Like, I'm never going to be any of those things. but I know I could create some really cool content if I sit down and figure it out and just do it simply and not make it about like making it perfect and making it look like all the other YouTubers out there, whatever. Because there's so many things that when I express myself vocally is a lot different, it's better and it's more passionate than if somebody reads it on my blog or reads it on my website or like, and nobody reads anymore, Rosie. Nobody reads. My photographer told me earlier this year, she's just like, you know, a friend of mine really wants to go on your retreat, but she got lost on your website. I'm like, what do you mean? Ooh. Like, she's like, there's just too many words. I'm like, yeah, but that's like explaining everything. Like she's like telling me, she's like, no, I don't want you to change anything. But there are 3 things that she wanted to know. Like she wanted to know how much that was, when it was, and what we would be doing. I'm like, okay, great. So then I like added a blurb at the top of one of my pages that said, when are we going, where we're meeting, everything else. And so it's like, okay, it's there if people want to see it. But nobody has any attention span to like look at things anymore. And I've noticed more and more like websites going to websites and stuff, like everything is so like, this is me, this is a picture, hi, I'm Katie, da, 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 da. Done.
Yes.
Like really short and sweet because nobody wants to read. And I'll attest that my husband, who's Italian, he doesn't like reading. Like, and so I'm like, even if it's like for work, I'm like, honey, you have to read this email. He's like, yeah, but I just translate with Google Translate. I'm like, okay, but you're not even reading it. He's having Google Translate talk it to him. And I'm like, like, come on, people. You know, so I think there's like, there's a lot of shifts, I feel like, for small business owners as we move forward into this technology world, because there's people that don't want to be on social media and they're very successful. And I know I know a few people that are successful with their businesses offline, but they started online. But like there's these whole like little polls and stuff like that. Like, okay, what's right? It's like you're balancing plates. Like which one is correct? And if it's not, okay, there goes all the plates. Like, okay, fine. And then you give up, you throw all the plates in the air, and then you're like, screw it, I'm using plastic or paper plates.
So how do you navigate figuring out what the right thing is? Because like you say, it is like spinning plates and juggling all these things, and it can be overwhelming, and you just go, ugh, don't want to do any of it. But how do you figure out what the right thing for you is?
I think one of the things I've been working on is just really tapping into my intuition and my gut feeling. Like, do I like doing it? Or do I like doing XYZ? Okay, no, I don't. Okay, so what do I like doing? Okay, well, I like talking. And I like talking about stories, and I like going off on tangents. And then trying to like regroup and like, you know, okay, so maybe my podcast is a thing. So I think it's more of just like being aware of how it feels in your body. Like, because if you are doing things because society or a small business coach told you, or your mom told you, or your dad, you know, somebody, someone of authority or someone in your life has told you like, no, you know, you should be doing it like this. And I think that's wrong. Like, and that's where you learn, that's where I feel like that's where you lose yourself, where you hear from other people, no, you know, why are you doing your retreats like that? You should do it like this. Like, well, should is an asshole. I'm quoting Jennifer Pasteloff. I don't know if you know that author. On Being Human. You should read that book. It's really good. But she would always say should is an asshole throughout her book. Because the word should is something that I hate to say even when I talk it to other people, but like I try not to even say that to my clients, like, because like I don't care if you want to go from Rome to Venice to Milan, and like I'm gonna be honest, you're not going to enjoy it. You're gonna be exhausted, you're gonna be this, you're gonna be that, but you could totally do it if you are willing and able, and you say this is the only time I'm going to Italy and I want to go and see all the main cities. Great. But you're going to be exhausted, and I'm going to put all the facts out. Like, you're going to be really tired. But, I mean, some people like to be tired. and be exhausted and sleep on the plane
Yeah.
on the way home. Like,
I love this whole should is an asshole. It's true. I'm very mindful of using that word. Like it slips out quite often, but I go, no, why am I saying
yeah,
should? That's a red flag, straight up. There's no need for this should.
no,
Whenever I do something I should be
yeah,
doing, usually bites mum.
totally. And then and it's usually something that you know in your heart that you don't want to do. Like, let's go to like exercise. Like people saying, okay, now it's the first of the year. Coming into this gym, let's go to the gym. Oh, I should do an hour every day. I should do this. I should do that. Okay. No. Like, be okay with doing 5 minutes and then doing 10
Right.
and then doing 15 or then, taking a break for a week and then coming back. Like, there's no need to do things the way, people are telling you that you need to do them. So, and going back to the fact of like, when you were asking me how I navigate, like what's right for me, like my mother-in-law says this a lot to me. She's like, the only way you learn is to make mistakes. Like that's the only way you learn. So as I was telling her some things when we were there over Christmas, and she's just like, and I was just saying like, oh, I did this wrong. I did this wrong. She's like, you didn't do it wrong. You made a mistake and you learned from it. Now you just need to shift. Now you know that didn't work. This is the path you want to go on. Or you want to just turn on that light bulb and go, okay, that path didn't work. Whatever lesson came out of that. Okay, no, I'm not going to charge that. I'm going to charge this. Because then I won't be, without paying for the service fee or whatever it is that happens. There's, I think it's important to be aware, especially people that are, if you're a one woman, one man show in your business, like you should find that compassion within when you do make a mistake. Because I'm sure like in the 4 years of you setting up your van, there were probably some mistakes, which you probably picked yourself up on at first because you never did it.
Yep.
And you're like, shit, why didn't I know to put this material in or not? Like, I think a lot of us, compassion is not taught in families because nobody knows it. And I feel like most of the people that grow up with parents that have had some sort of trauma, there is not going to be a lot of compassion taught because they weren't taught compassion. And then their parents weren't taught compassion. Like, it's a rare skill to have, is to be self-compassionate. And I'm still struggling with that daily. I try so hard to like be kind to myself and not be like, yesterday I was at work at my full-time job and I'm really good at it. I'm a personal trainer at a country club, a fitness director at a country club. And it's so easy that it's boring. I think you can relate.
Right.
Like, it's easy and it's boring. It's 5 minutes from my house, which is amazing. But I said out loud in my office, because my friend Jenny always tells this to me. She's like, Katie, it's just a job. It's a job for you to make your dreams come true. Like, to go forward with your business. Because I would say like, oh, I want, this is annoying because I have to do this, I have to do that. It's like, Katie, you are 5 minutes from your house and it's just a job. So yesterday in my office, I said out loud, it's just a job, Katie. It doesn't define me. It's not my purpose. It's not like, I feel like there's so many, basically like Western society, or like, I'm sure in Australia this is like that, but we're all about, our job is our life. Our job is our life. It is our purpose. It's what makes us who we are. So like when somebody asks you like, what do you do? That's like, that is the normal question that we get asked. Like, well, I don't do personal training as my passion. Like, but I do other things. From self-compassion to like just understanding the fact that, being able to understand that even if you are in a job that you hate, that pays the bills, maybe you're looking to like open your own business, or, be on, transition to a completely different job, which I've had a lot of friends do during COVID. I think it's just important to be that compassionate being for yourself, because if you're not, it's where you lose yourself in the process that society tells you to be, basically, is that they tell you that you have to be with your, at least in the American society that I've grown up in, your job is your life. Like, you have your family and then there's your job. Yeah. But there's no such thing as like downtime, like work-life balance, self-care. There's no such thing, So, but luckily I have that, I have work-life balance. But yeah, it's tricky, and I feel like, I mean, how do you feel like with that?
Yeah, let's start with the compassion thing. I find it so much easier to show compassion for others than to show compassion for myself. And what's that about? Like, sometimes the way I treat myself, or the thoughts I have, that inner dialogue, is so cruel, and I would never dream of treating someone else like that. So why do we fall into that habit? I think a lot of us do it, especially as women. And it's destructive. It really is. So I'm actively working on that too. It's not easy. But I keep telling myself, if I don't try this, because this is what it often is for me. I want to do something, and then I'm too busy thinking about what other people think, and I'm going to fail. I just tell myself, if I don't try, I'm never going to know if I succeed or not, because I get caught up with, I'm going to fail, it's not going to work. But you know what? If I never try, I'm never going to bloody know. So it's bullcrap. Like, just give it a go. And you were talking about mistakes. They, I guess it can sound cliche, but they really are learning opportunities. I think we grow as people if we're able to reflect on it, right? If we just beat ourselves up, oh, I failed and blah, blah, blah.
There's a lot of people that are like that. Like, there's a rare community, like a small community of people that are able to see themselves and like look at themselves from the outside and say like, okay, yeah, that was a mistake, but you're okay. You're safe. Like, everything's okay. And the fact of failing is a huge thing when I started my business, because one, I had never done a retreat on my, like, participated in a retreat. So I just said, I'm going to do retreats. But I had no idea how to plan them. I had no idea how to find a villa. I had no idea I didn't have any steps. Like, I just did it on my own. And even the first one we did in 2022, like, it was a success. But yeah, there were mistakes. There were things that I got feedback from the people, and I took it with like compassion and be like, oh my God, thank you for letting me know. Even though deep down inside, that feeling when you're like, yeah, tell me how you really feel, but you really just want to be like, shut the fuck up. I don't care that you didn't like the car. That was the car I chose. And I'm sorry that you got sick. Yeah. They felt a little nauseous in the car, but Tuscany's like this, they're winding roads. But it's not my fault that you drank 4 bottles of wine tonight. Okay, but I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I think that there's like, especially after that, like, I wrote down, I actually did, there's this app called Otter, like the animal otter, and it's a voice memo. Like, it's like a transcription, like if you were in a meeting and you wanted to hear it all. So every night at the end of each day of the retreat, I talked out my notes. And I said, okay, this didn't work, this didn't work, and that felt really good. And then I went back and then wrote them down, and so from there, and then like me trying to reinvent the wheel when it comes to planning vacations, like, I was like talking to, my husband's like a really good steady rock, and he's a Libra, thank God. But I would say like, I want to do this, I want to do that. And he would just be like, okay, this is, and he would help me with like math and like, because I hate math, and logistics, and like figuring out like how to get from there to there. And like, but then I finally realized at the end of this year, because I didn't do a retreat this year, I'm like, okay, I have a really good base in one villa, which is near my mother-in-law's house. I'm like, okay, I have a really good relationship with the owner. It's really close to Florence. It's this and this and that. I'm like, okay. And the other problem I had was like, okay, so I'll rewind. Okay, so I want to do a villa retreat, and then I wanted to do one in Florence because Florence is my love, and I know Florence very well. So I had found this B&B. I have not stayed in it yet, but I've visited Lucrezia twice already, just to like ask her questions. Like I visited her over Christmas just to like ask her more questions, and she's so sweet. I'm like, okay, and I feel good about it. So when I feel in my body, I'm like, okay, this is good. Like I've never stayed with Lucrezia. I have no idea what the experience will be like, but it's good. I feel good. So I have those two pillars. I'm like, okay, that's what I want to do. The other problem as a small business owner, especially for this type of retreat, is the fact that I have to buy a ticket. That tickets are so expensive. We spent $4,000 to go for Christmas. Okay, me and my husband, really expensive. So I need to cut that down. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 2 of these in one trip because that's going to cut down on my expenses for that. Going to cut down on my car rental because in Florence I won't need a car. So yeah, so there's as much as like I didn't want to like just start with what I wanted to do, honestly, Rosie, I wanted to go from Puglia to Lake Como. Like I wanted to do all these different retreats, all these different places, and then I'm like, oh shit, I have to plan them. Like, and I have a friend that lives near Lake Como, and she was kind of helping me and stuff, but I'm like, okay, this is not feeling right. Like, what feels right? What do I know? I know Tuscany. I know Florence. Why am I trying to create something different when I know what I know, and then when I feel more comfortable, maybe then, and if I, make some more money, then I can take some research trips down to Puglia and find the right places. So it has taken me now 4.5 years to figure out I can just do one trip a year and not beat myself up and be like, I have to do this, I have to do that. And and it's so funny, like, and I don't know how, I was going to ask you this question after the fact, but like, I have a job. It pays really well. Like my full-time job pays really well. So I'm like, but I was rushing to get out of it because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to be happier, which is wrong to say. I'm going to be happier when I'm just doing this. Because not necessarily it's true, because it's just me right now.
Right.
So I'm the one that's doing all the work. Like I haven't hired anybody yet. I don't have a driver. My husband's my driver, which he's getting annoyed with. So like there's a lot of like moving parts that like if I become, and I hope to, I shouldn't keep saying if, but like when I become successful and if this becomes successful, but like that's a fear talking when I say if. Yeah. But I know that I'll need to hire people and I'll need help because it won't be a hardworking machine if it's just me pulling my hair out and just chugging bottles of wine. Yeah. But like for you, I don't know your whole story, but like when you decided that you wanted to live in your van and like prepare, like I know like you already said, there's a lot of fear that came up. But there was also a lot of probably processes you had to do in order to then set up your van so that you could have your computer there and like electricity and stuff like that. Like all the like logistics of living in a vehicle.
Right. So true. I really underestimated, which I think a lot of us do, the work and effort it would require. Like you said, figuring out this setup. It's still not perfect. If people are watching on YouTube, you can see my computer monitor to the side that's sort of folded away. There's wires everywhere. But it's good enough for now. And, at the moment I'm pulled up in a location that's not the perfect recording location. But I'm really trying to embrace this imperfection because I think it's better me getting this podcast out, sharing your story and the value you have to offer than just not doing anything at all. And I mentioned earlier, it took me 4 years to get the van to where it is now. That's how much I underestimated. I said 6 months it's been 4 years. And initially I beat myself up about that. Like, oh, why'd you take so long? You should have worked harder. But I worked really bloody hard, actually. And, yeah, and I did it all myself. I have no experience building stuff or doing electrics. Like, it's been such a challenge. Yeah. It's not perfect. It doesn't look very pretty. But actually, I'm really proud. Yeah. And it's taken me a while to get to that point. I used to show people the van and be like, oh, you know, it's not finished. And, you know, I haven't done it before. And, you know, don't judge. But now I just say, look, it's imperfect, but it's practical. I did it myself. Yeah. And I'm so proud. Awesome. I'm working on it. I am so proud of myself. Yeah. People kind of go, huh? You don't say that. You can't say you're proud of yourself. But
why not? Exactly, because you did it. And that's the same thing for me. It's like, I'm still trying to get there to be proud of myself for what I've done, because it's hard when you do already normally judge yourself and like beat yourself up. Yeah. So I have, if you could see what's behind my computer, I have lists of facts about me, so that I'm always looking up and being like, no, I did that. No, I know that. Right. And I speak fluent Italian. Okay. I know Florence like the back of my hand. I married an Italian. Like, you know, all the things that are facts that make me a passionate, authentic, like, guide for Tuscany. Because my trips are not about checking off things off your list and like rushing to the next excursion or landmark that's around. My trips are about being able to really embrace and like sit in the moment with people, with locals, with the fellow, you know, participants, with my family, like with me, like we have dinner every night together, like at the villa or at a restaurant in Florence, which is what I planned. Like, so we can talk about the day. And we can, you know, remind ourselves like, oh my God, making pasta with Gianluca was so cool. Like, you know, I've never experienced anything like that. Like, I think in this go, go, go world, even more so now with as fast as technology and everything is moving, people are slowing down so much less, where they don't connect with themselves, with others, and with the world around them. Like, you know, opening your eyes and actually looking at a vista without your phone in front of your face. Like, can you just look at it? Right. Like, can you just see? I mean, I
just take it in for
a minute. I mean, I do that all the time. Like, I take a lot of pictures, but like, I walked around Florence over Christmas, and it's been the first time in 12 years for me that I've been back for Christmas. And I just looked around. I'm like, oh my God, like, this is a breathtaking city. It's great. I love hearing all the languages in the street. Like, I just, all my senses were like on like high volume. Like, okay. So, like, I was like touching the walls of these palazzos, smelling the coffee coming out of the cafes, looking at everyone in their eyes and like trying to get like an idea of like, okay, where are they going? Like, I'm one of those people that like to people watch. I don't know if you like to people watch, but like, yes, I love watching people walk through a piazza or walk down the street. Like, where are they going? Okay, they have bags. They might have went shopping. I don't know. I'm a little like nutty that way, but like, I really like just to like be in the moment as much as I can, and kind of just feel that feeling of being present. Like, because it's hard to be present because we have so many distractions, right? Mm-hmm. It's really hard. That's a hard thing.
Yes, understatement. Yeah. Yes,
it's a hard thing. And it's like people want to be present. They say they want to be present, but not everybody really knows what that is.
Yes, right.
They can say, like, I'm present, but I have my phone in my hand. I'm here. Like, you know, like, no, you're not. I have to say that to my mom all the time. I'm like, do you want to talk to me or do you want to text? Because, like, just, like,
yeah,
I understand that, like, the world has now given people the permission to be rude and like to have their phone out.
It is rude.
Yeah.
I was listening to a talk by Simon Sinek, and he was talking about this issue of the phone, right? He said if you're standing up talking to someone, you've got your phone in your hand, even if you're not looking at it, that's sending a message to the other person that they're not important. If you're out at dinner, and this is a common thing, I'm not sure if it is where you are, you put your phone face down on the table. So it's like, I'm not looking. But the phone is on the table.
Yeah.
Put it away. Be present.
And all the experiences I had this past trip with my friends and my family, none of my family and none of my friends, when we went out to dinner, had their phone. It was in their bag or it was in their pocket. Yeah. We were all talking. We were all looking at each other, making jokes. Like we went to visit my husband's cousin, Bernardo and Alessandra, and like they didn't have their phones anywhere. We went to their house for lunch and they just wanted to know everything about what's going on in America. Tell us about your job stuff and all. Like that was presence. Like that was like, I felt seen. I felt heard. I felt like Stefano was seen and heard. Like we had honest conversation without the device, without us like, oh my God, I have to show you this. Oh, I have to show you this video and blah, blah, blah. Like all the shit that goes on in normal other lives. You know, I'm not saying it that it's like, it's okay that you do it, but I don't like it. Like, I don't like it anymore. Yeah. And I should have even said that because I don't need to apologize for not liking something that somebody else does. And as people like age, and I don't know if you have any aging friends like in their 60s and 70s, but like, but it's more addicting for them, this type of behavior. So it's like, again, back to the theme here is presence. There is no presence. They're not present with you. They're not present with the family. They're not present with friends because they're distracted, and it becomes an addiction. And that's what's like really, really sad, because we're all addicted to it in one way or another. I am, you know, my hands are up. I am as well. Like I'm trying to like slowly move away from it, but everyone's on their own path of that. So I don't want to like, beat anybody up about that.
Yeah. Be kind to yourself, but be aware of it.
Yeah, exactly. Be totally aware of it because it's not, I mean, I'm sure, I mean, for you, do you have that? Do you feel that you're like distracted a lot by the device or things?
Constantly. Yeah. And I just, sometimes there's a lot of shame around that for me, and I beat myself up, which isn't productive. What's that going to change? Right? I think I acknowledge the problem and then I make more of an effort, because I shouldn't compare myself, but I don't think I'm as bad as other people. Like I'll go out with a friend to lunch and I'll look around and there's couples sitting opposite each other on their phones, not even talking. And I go, that's really sad. I feel sorry for them.
That's like,
they're missing out on the beauty of life and the person sitting across from them. Being present is so important. And yeah, it's something I'm always working on. Like even in a conversation, I'll go, oh, let me Google that, because I'll forget something. And it's like, you don't need to do that. Just continue the conversation.
Me and my husband had this conversation a few years ago, and we would go out to dinner and he would get his phone. I was like, oh, I'm just looking up something. I'm like, what are you looking up? He's like, well, we were just talking about that thing, so I want to make sure that I said the right thing. I'm like, who cares? It doesn't matter. Like, there's no, it's not a quiz show. Like, you know, we're not making sure that we're right or wrong. Yeah. But yeah, there's this like constant need to make sure that it's correct, or that I'm saying it right, or that, oh, let's see if so-and-so died, because I heard he died and I'm not sure. Like, whatever. But it's not urgent. It's not something that
is that really a make or break component of this conversation?
We were talking about Friends, and you wanted to make sure that, yes, Matthew Perry did die last year, but we all know that he did. So, like, it's okay. You don't need to look it up when he did. Yeah. Not irrelevant. Yeah.
Right. I think I need to write that down and put it on the wall. Being present. It's a good reminder.
And I think it's a hard thing to just do. Because if you're sitting with
Yeah,
yourself,
yeah.
if it's not meditating, or if it's just sitting and you're journaling, or if you're just sitting and looking out the window, like
Yeah.
when is the last time you just sat there and looked outside and like looked at the branches and looked at the trees? Like nobody does that. I mean, I would do it more in the summer because it's prettier. Like right now, it's really cloudy, but
Yeah.
like gloomy and cold. But yeah, I mean, it's a hard thing to do. Being present, I think, is something that I want to do more, but I'm also like, what's the word? Hold on, I'm intimidated by it
Yeah.
because what am I going to find when I'm sitting with myself? What am I going to feel?
Yeah.
What is my ego going to say? Katie, stop working so hard because it's not going to work. You're going to fail. That's what my ego's an asshole. As well. I got my ego's name is Barry, by the way, because I no offense if anyone's named Barry, but like Barry is.
Damn you, Barry.
Yeah, fuck you, Barry. I named my ego. I did that many years ago. Like Barry. Now I actually start talking to him when I'm not in a highly sensitive, like feeling overwhelmed or anything like that. But I would just be like, Barry, I know you're trying to like protect me, but I think you should shut up. Like, that's what they're trying. Like, your ego's trying to do that. Like, especially when you're doing something new, like we are, like new things. He's gonna be like, I don't think you should put money into that van there, Rosie. That's not really a smart thing to do. You know, I mean, how are you going to pay that off? Like, all the things. Like, Katie, how many credit cards do you have? Do you really need all those credit cards? Yeah, Barry, but one of them's, I'm not going to explain it to you, Barry, because you're just trying to protect me.
Right.
Like, over-explaining is another one of my things that I learned to stop doing this year. Just over-explain the reason why I'm doing something, even to clients or even to my parents or to friends. Like, and that is a key of a reaction. Nope, that's not the word either. What is the word? It's a reaction. I guess I'm just going to use the word reaction. It's the reaction to shame and to feeling that you're not worthy. So I'm going to over-explain something that you really could give two shits about. You're like, I don't care that you can't pay for this coffee, Katie. It's fine. I'll pay for it. Yeah, I'm going to get paid, blah, 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 I don't have any cash, blah, 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 like that type of...
Yeah, shut up.
Just shut up. Thank you for the coffee. Like,
I want to interrupt and cut the episode short. That's the end of part 1. To be continued next week in episode 43, part 2, where Katie will be sharing more about what her business actually is and the biggest lessons she has learnt. Catch you then. If this episode resonated with you at all, could I please ask that you share it with a friend who you think could get value from it? And whilst you're doing that, make sure you follow and subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss another episode. And whilst you're following or subscribing, please leave us a rating, preferably 5 stars, and also a written review. Doing each of these things is going to help this podcast reach more people and impact more lives, which is, at the end of the day, is what we're here to do. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Remember, you matter, you're worth it, and you are so, so capable. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next week.